Hello, my name is Jenna Kopp, and today I'm going to be presenting my final paper for my senior thesis class. And apologies in advance if my bird starts screaming on cue. I have a parrot, and this is the time he feels he needs to scream, right when I need to record. So apologies on that in advance, but we're going to be talking about birds, so it matches. And the title of my paper is The Effects of Positive Reinforcement on Raptors as Educational Ambassadors. So my thesis statement is to review current literature on raptor training methods and utilize data from raptor training experiences to examine the most effective raptor training methods and other important factors required to ensure a comfortable and successful educational raptor. So let's talk about what a raptor is. So raptors are also known as birds of prey, and they're a group of birds most people are pretty familiar with. The bald eagle, our national symbol for one, is a bird of prey or a raptor. There's approximately 330 million species, including hawks, eagles, falcons, and owls. There is still kind of debate going on if vultures are considered birds of prey or not. But that is a topic for another time. But what defines a bird of prey is kind of challenging, kind of going into that, since not all birds of prey hunt live prey, such as vultures, and scientists have kind of had to try to figure out how to define them. But ultimately they define them based off of that they are predators. So a predator is defined as any organism that feeds off of other living organisms. Vultures, for example, do not hunt their prey. They are scavenger birds. Other raptors, like eagles, hawks, and falcons, hunt live prey. So therefore, raptors ultimately are defined based on their hooked beaks, their talons, and the fact that they eat live prey. So for example, a little robin may hunt live prey, but such as worms, but they don't have those hooked beaks and those talons, so therefore they are not birds of prey. So going into a little more about birds of prey and their role in the environment. They play an extremely important role in the environment. They are top predators pretty much in every single place they live in. So they are really important in ecology and the top-down pressure. They help regulate prey populations. So barn owls, for example, prey on about more than 1,000 mice a year to feed their families when they have kids. So without those barn owls, rodent populations can get out of hand. So they are very beneficial to stabilizing food webs and promoting species richness and co-occurrence in ecosystems. So not only are they super, super important to the ecosystem, but they are also extremely important to us as well. As I mentioned, they help limit those rodent populations so that we don't have to deal with them as much. And vultures, for example, actually help prevent the spread of disease because they scavenge so much. In a case in India, when the vultures started dying off because we were poisoning them with diclofenac, that is an anti-inflammatory drug that people put in their cows. So when the cows passed away, the vultures would eat on them and they would get poisoned and die. So as the vulture populations disappeared, disease went up dramatically. So, but this rapid decline has not just been in vultures, but in raptors all around. DDT was a huge problem with our bald eagles. Thankfully, we kind of got a handle on that, and bald eagle populations are back to normal. But unfortunately, today, raptors face a lot of different threats, such as rodenticide, lead poisoning, and diclofenac, like I mentioned, and numerous other threats as well. And unfortunately, as raptor populations are declining, there's a big gap and a lack of research regarding this topic. And because of that lack of funding in research regarding raptors and their conservation, there's not a lot of conservation going around about raptors, and they are extremely important. So we need to make sure that people are aware of what is going on. So therefore, despite, these important roles raptors have played in the ecosystem, like I said, there is no research that focuses on and emphasizes conservation priorities in raptors. So keeping that in mind, with a lack of funding, it has become more and more difficult to promote conservation. So that is where the role of educational ambassadors come in. Now, an educational ambassador is basically an animal under captivity or human care, I like to say, that is unable to go back to the wild. So either for an injury or because they are imprinted, there is something keeping them from surviving in the wild. So therefore, they live under human care. And we have lots of raptors that are educational ambassadors, and they have become extremely important in playing the role of spreading conservation. If you've ever seen like somebody with a bird on their arm talking about raptors and teaching people, that is an educational ambassador being used to educate the public. So like I said, raptors are super important in helping spread education about the threats raptors face, and ultimately are, making people care and want to go out and protect them. So they play an extremely important role. However, for a raptor to be a successful educational ambassador, they have to have proper training, because you can't just put a wild bird on your glove who can't survive in the wild anymore and expect them to be calm and happy and feel safe and not freak out, basically, and become a good educational ambassador. So in my paper, I'm going to be talking about what makes a good educational ambassador, but specifically what training methods are used that are most effective to ensure that the animal is safe, happy, and comfortable while educating the public. It is extremely important that the bird is comfortable and happy. The welfare is of the utmost importance of this animal. Let's go into reviewing the raptor training methods. First, we have the traditional old method, and there are lots of training methods, but I'm just going to be covering two big general ones. So there's the traditional method, which was used in old falconry for thousands of years. And it is basically force. It is forcing the bird to sit on the glove until it basically gives up. That's the first method. The second method is more humane, and it is known as positive reinforcement. And this is based off of choice. The bird is never forced to do anything it doesn't want to do. Participation is not forced. The bird is not required to train if it doesn't want to train. So positive reinforcement is a part of operant conditioning. So Steve Martin is an extremely well-known trainer in the bird field, and he emphasizes the importance of trust and communication, and positive reinforcement is ultimately what builds this base of trust in a relationship between a trainer and a bird. So Martin also discusses in one of his journals that positive reinforcement is ultimately one of the most important elements in a trainer-raptor relationship. Kind of said that already. It is the trust in the trainer that allows the bird to feel comfortable in the glove while educating the public, and it gives the animal the opportunity to confidently approach and interact with people in an educational setting, which creates lasting benefits to the bird. The bird is happier, so therefore he is healthier, and he has a less risk of injury from being stressed all the time. And it creates a better experience for the public when you're teaching people about these birds. If the public sees that you have this deep relationship with this bird that you've put so much time into, and they see that the bird is happy, they're gonna be more likely to want to go out and protect their wild counterparts. So positive reinforcement has been seen effectively used in many cases, including my own. So I'm going to be talking about now my experience. So I am in this field, if you can't tell. In my slideshow, you'll see some pictures of me and the birds. I have trained a couple of raptors as projects. One of them was at one of my very first internships at the World Bird Sanctuary, and I could talk about all of my training experiences for days because I have a lot of them. But I decided to talk about Sabrina the barn owl in particular, and I chose Sabrina because I started training her from scratch, basically. She was only like a month old. She's a very young barn owl, and my project was to flight train her glove to glove so she could fly across audiences for educational purposes one day. And obviously you have to have an extremely strong amount of trust in that bird to come to you, and the bird has to trust you, as well. So in this project, I used positive reinforcement, and with the end goal of her flying glove to glove for short distances and other behaviors such as scale training and Jess's training, which is a piece of equipment that you have to put on their ankles, so that voluntary. So the goal was for her to trust me enough to touch her feet. So the training consisted of shaping the behavior with small hops just to the glove, and then to longer flights as we continue to shape that behavior. And as soon as she would, the minute she would step or even do a tiny hop at first, she would get rewarded. So again, using that positive reinforcement. And so over the course of the project, I examined how the effects of positive reinforcement and weight management and even negative reinforcement affected her. So negative reinforcement came in when not me in particular, but the medical staff would have to come and forcefully catch her up to do a medical exam. So while that was for medical reasons only, it also kind of gave us a look into how force affects the relationship, because she actually had quite a bit of a downfall after she was caught up for that medical exam, because even though I did not catch her up for the medical exam, she did not want anything to do with me for a good week or two, because she still generalized that bad experience to people as a whole. So that kind of shows how force is very negative, is not very effective with educational ambassadors. And again, that was for medical reasons only. I would never force her to do anything she does not want to do. So in the end, I did successfully flight train her indoors and teach her to be comfortable with Jess's, and I also scale trained her. And this was and I helped her overcome her setbacks from those medical catch-ups with positive reinforcement. So this kind of shows the clear evidence of the effectiveness of positive reinforcement and the trust that allowed me to train all of these things in only 3 months. I was able to do these 4 things in 3 months, and that is pretty great. That just shows how powerful positive reinforcement is. So basically, the findings of my experience with Sabrina is that in order to have a successful educational raptor, safety and comfort is the number one priority, and using force creates a distrust between raptors and people and heavily decreases the bird's motivation, and is just not good overall. Versus positive reinforcement creates a very strong bond between you and the bird, and that bird trusts you, and its motivation is there because they want to do this behavior voluntarily. They want to be with you. They want to help educate the public. And therefore, it is more effective. So that's basically what I found in the project, is that using positive reinforcement allowed me to do all of these things with her, versus force that never would have worked. Sorry. Excuse me. So through this method, I was able to flight train her indoors, and allowed her to feel safe and gave her a reason to look forward to training. So you could see visually in her body language that she was always very comfortable in the glove with me. She didn't show stressful behaviors like baiting off of the glove, slick down feathers. She was always very comfortable. And she would show other behaviors, like she would vocalize when she would see me. She was obviously very excited to be with people, which is great, which gives them a better life as an educational ambassador. So the bird is always given a choice to participate in any behavior. And by not using force, we allow the bird to choose to participate, and it not only becomes more reliable but it becomes more meaningful as well. So, in conclusion, as more and more species disappear off this planet, the use of educational animals is becoming more and more common and more important to help spread conservation. It's become very critical. So helping to inspire adults and children of all ages to help protect these animals is so crucial. And using these educational ambassadors in captivity is such a key part of that, because when people see these birds in person, they see how amazing they are, they see the bond and trust you have with that animal, they want to go out and protect it ultimately. And so it is, because these educational ambassadors are so important to conservation, it is kind of up to us, the people who care for the birds and the trainers, to give these birds who cannot be released into the wild, who are in captivity, like the utmost respect and care they deserve, and make sure that they can live the best lives that they possibly can, because they are giving us a gift and allowing us to use them to help educate the public. And of course, they're doing it voluntarily, so that's even more amazing. So it's really, really important that we treat them as best as we possibly can. And the only way we can do that is through correct training and through the use of positive reinforcement. So, yeah, so I hope that is a quick little insight to this topic. I know I went over on time. It's really, really hard to talk about everything in such a short amount of time, but thank you for listening to my presentation.